Welcome to the Your Gifts Matter podcast. This podcast is all about guiding, educating, and inspiring individuals around the world to access their true gifts, talents, and abilities. We believe that everybody has a gift to offer to the world, and sometimes you may need help, inspiration, and motivation to bring it to life. And that's what this podcast is all about. Our guests are here to share their story, their journey on how they brought their own gifts to the world and show you how you can do the same for yourself. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon best-selling book, Engage, Connect, Grow. 52 lessons to guide individuals, corporate teams to the heart of what truly matters to them. Are you at a point in your life where you're ready to commit to seeing your life challenges differently? Perhaps you're struggling with performance at work, or maybe you're not sure how to handle a difficult situation. Maybe there's something you need to communicate and you're not sure how. Visit Amazon today and obtain your copy of Engage, Connect, Grow. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Your Gifts Matter. Really happy to have Lisa Pepper-Satkin here today, Executive Therapeutic Coach, and just really excited to and gonna love hearing her story and having our guests share a little bit about her journey and the gifts that she's bringing to the world in that. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
I have this wonderful blend of psychotherapy and coaching, which is why I call it Executive Therapeutic Coaching. But it's like every year I want to change the name of it just to keep incorporating and encompassing more of what I do. But soon, like, my title's going to be 9 lines long, right?
Definitely.
This and this,
Yeah.
So I love your body of work because it honors that many of us have these 9-line business cards we need to put out there.
Exactly. There's all these gifts that we have that we want to share them and make sure everybody can benefit from them in that. And I'm really curious as we chat today, a little bit more about the work you're doing, because I actually have a counseling diploma and I've been coaching, and there's a lot of people's opinions around the differences, but I don't know if you can attest to the fact that there's a lot of similarities that and benefits to both. But we can maybe touch on that as we chat too.
I think that's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
The distinction, right? Because I often am having people refer clients to me, like they'll call and they'll say, well, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a coach. And I always wonder, I wonder what wall they hit in the body of work that would have them then turn the body of work over to me, right?
Right.
And the best way I think I see it is as psychotherapists or licensed psychotherapists or counselors. I don't know what your licensing and degree is in Canada, but we're able to really look back and help someone understand how they got to where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coaching is really and where do you want to go? And how do you want to share your gifts? And who do you want to be in the world? Right?
Yeah.
And so I have the skill to help them process both ends of the spectrum. Whereas many of the coaches that I know and work with and love are very good at, okay, let's help you move ahead. But unless we understand really how we got to where we are, it's pretty difficult just to bounce ahead.
Yeah.
Some people can do it, but if you're really in need of an analysis and a process and understanding really your trauma, capital T trauma or small t trauma, if we don't really get that, then it's hard to launch a new version of yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Moving forward, you're going to still run into potentially these patterns that are need to be kind of looked at and healed from the past first, right? And that's fantastic. I love the approach and the way that you look at it.
Yeah.
So
I love the marriage of the two.
Yeah, there's definitely huge benefits of bringing them together. Yeah,
right.
Love that. So tell us about, how did you, where did things start for you as far as getting into where you're at today?
When I was in the 3rd grade, it really was.
Yeah.
Way back
Oh,
when.
wow. Yeah.
So I remember I grew up in a very conservative town, and I didn't come from a conservative background or conservative family. And so in the third grade, I noticed like all of my friends couldn't swear or didn't know how to swear. I was like, okay, ladies, I probably called them ladies at that time too, but I would gather them at recess and like, okay, we're going to learn how to swear. And this is a safe place at recess to swear. Because once you can do something that's taboo, it ceases to be that taboo, right?
Right. Yeah.
And, that carried on in lots of different topics. I remember my family being more open-minded than some of the other conservative or religious families in my town. So I remember early on just like noticing differences about the things that I talk about versus what my friends would talk about. And then when I was 10, my parents got divorced, and I haven't really talked about this much on podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
My mother married my brother's therapist. Okay, so you
Okay. Yeah.
correct me.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Major violation,
Yes.
major ethical code violation. Where were all the adults?
Yeah.
So not around, nobody was saying anything. I do remember my father being up in arms about it, but sort of powerless.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said I wanted to talk to a therapist, and I had a really cool therapist. And I remember early on thinking, I'm going to do for other people what she did for me, because it was a place that I could really process how confusing it was. Even though I was only 10 or 11,
Yeah. Wow.
I remember very clearly thinking, this guy is wackadoodle, and now he lives in my house. And what am I going to do? And I think at that time I sort of armored up and protected myself. And it's interesting because Brené Brown talks a lot about armor and armored leadership. And I think because I've done so much work on myself, I'm aware of my armor, but I'm less directed by it. And that's how I work with all the leaders that I work with. It's like your armor's there for a reason, tying back into the exact thing we started the call with, like therapy and coaching, understanding where you come from and really what you want to do with it and where you're going. And so I started being interested in psychology very early on. My therapist was so cool. We used to eat donuts, and she would smoke cigarettes. That's when smoking was cool,
Right. Yeah.
And then her dog would stand up at 10 to the hour and sort of bark, and then you knew the session was over.
Oh, hilarious.
And a really beautiful story, when I finished graduate school, I went back to my hometown and I ran into her. And I invited her to my party to celebrate my graduating from graduate school.
Amazing.
And it was her influence, and it was really beautiful. And she had cataracts. So I fed her at the party so she wouldn't soil her dress. And there was just something so beautifully full circle about that, that I now got to feed her. She fed me for so many years.
Yeah.
Wisdom and love, and I got to feed her back.
So where do you, as a child, like if you go back to where you brought all the girls together and taught them how to swear, like where did that kind of confidence and initiative come from, and the ability to not do the norm, like not conform to things?
I think being other, like I was different than the people in my community. And I was sort of born like that. I'm Scorpio. I don't know what all the I don't know all the reasons, but I always remember having a little bit of in Yiddish we call it chutzpah. I just remember, and I came from a family where there was kind of just a spark of energy. My father was very liked and loved in the community. My mom taught other women art, and she was very creative. I too am very creative. I don't know. I think you sort of land on the planet the way that you are.
Yeah.
But later on, I grew a lot more anxious. And I
Okay.
think that's
Yeah.
because of this crazy guy living in our house, and I knew something was off. And so I just sort of was kind of more nervous. And a good friend of mine, she's still a good friend today, used to have to walk me home from her house, which was just like a half a block away, but I was
Right.
really too afraid to walk home. And it probably wasn't that I was afraid to walk home. I was afraid to go home. And this man never did anything exactly to me that was abusive, but his energy was off. And I was a very intuitive kid.
Hmm.
I picked up on these nuances. He was very abusive to my brother, emotionally, physically, but I could pick up things energetically. I always have as a little girl too. And so I don't know, I just sort of
Yeah.
have always had chutzpah, as they
Yeah.
say in English.
And it sounds like having that therapist at that young age, it really helped during that time and
Totally.
moving through that, right? Yeah.
Right.
And the support.
Right. And I think we need to find, I lead a women's circle every
Yeah.
week. And what I notice is just having a place to land every week with as women in a circle helps everyone feel more grounded and safe and motivated, right? Because you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's so key. And I also created a program to help kids grow self-esteem.
Nice. Yeah.
I volunteered and taught that in my kids' grade school for the whole time they were there. And I noticed that those kids are different because I would every week be in there teaching kids how to find what your inner wisdom is, right? Very much like what you're doing with adults or
Yeah.
hopefully kids who are listening to the podcast. But it's about really going in and figuring out like who you are and what your special secret sauce is, no matter what anyone else tells you, right?
And what
It's
is that? What's involved to do that? Like, how do you help people through that process to
well, I
find
think
that? Yeah.
it's interesting because the program I designed was for kids, but
Yeah.
it's no different than adults, right?
Yeah.
I'm always asking people to recognize your feelings, but really be guided by your inner wisdom. And when I work with companies, which I love doing corporate work, I'm asking their people, what are your values? And how are you communicating your values like to your manager? Or as leaders, how are you honing the values of your people? It's as simple as like I have one of my values is to always be on time. I'm always on time. It's very rare that I'm late. And so when I am late, someone will know, hey, I got to check on Lisa or something's not right.
Yeah.
Right. But if I'm working with someone who's always like 5 or 10 minutes late, I am going to feel devalued as their employee. So as leaders, if you find out what your people value and you try and manage them based on their values, they will perform leaps and bounds for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually get to know them to the point where you understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
simple.
simple, right? Yeah.
So simple and so
Yeah.
key. And then the consistency
Hmm.
of leading from that place.
Yeah. And I noticed one of the resources on your website is about firing your inner bully. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that's that, key component of trusting your inner wisdom. Like, who
Right.
do I know I truly am? Not what I was told in ninth grade. I talked too much in my English class, so they transferred me to basic English. And that teacher, Mrs. Smith, oh my God, she was such a bee. Oh, she was a terrible woman. And she told me that I would amount to nothing, that I didn't know how to write, that I was obnoxious and, nobody liked me. I mean, she told me terrible things about myself. And I chose not to believe them, and, was probably sassy with her, but it was really good that I chose not to believe her. But I remember my struggle with writing all through high school and college. And all of a sudden I woke up to, oh, that's a seed that this mean Mrs. Smith, my inner bully, planted. And it was time for me to work hard to get out of believing that. And when you fire your inner bully, it's truly like going to the gym and exercising and getting stronger. I had a client the other day say, I do wall push-ups every day. And she's like, my arms are totally buff. And I said, yeah, because you're in a rigorous, consistent practice of working that muscle. Obviously, it was, it's not rocket science. But firing our inner bully, like hearing that voice that isn't yours, that isn't your truth, that has nothing to do with your gift or your purpose. That takes practice. And it also takes a reflection from the people around us to say, yeah, I hear your wisdom, or I see your wisdom, or I know that you're wise. And continuing to water that garden in people rather than letting them water the garden of their inner bully. Right? Because what we water grows.
Yeah. And that pattern of behavior of listening to the inner bully can be, it does take practice, because it's a voice that's been listened to for so long that one needs to change that habit to be able to listen to the different voice inside of them, right? The one that's actually wants to help them to move forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's a way that people can sort of joke, like, oh, I'm so dumb. I just went, and I was like, well, I was like, nope, stop. That's your inner bully voice. That, at least in conversation with me, I negate all inner bully voices with my friends, with my kids' friends, with, strangers. Like, no, you can't talk like that about yourself, because it's a disservice if I collude with someone's inner bully.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just saying it because they've been saying it probably for years, and they haven't connected the dots that they're actually putting themselves down. Right.
Right.
Yeah. How can you talk to yourself differently?
Totally. And
yeah.
I have one yoga teacher, and I noticed that she puts herself down in the middle of class, like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't really spoken up there because it's not appropriate. Right. But the other day after class, I said to her, do you know that you're really hard on yourself while you're teaching? So you're putting yourself down while you're trying to model for us to be embodied. She said, I know. And I said, well, I notice it. And I turn it around in my head each time, but I'd love to hear you speak more highly of yourself, because you're my mentor. You're my teacher. She said, thank you. I appreciate it. Some people, some people kind of go, oh, Lisa, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And and now she's aware, and I wonder, if you see a difference in the classes now over time, right?
The beauty of getting older, you just don't, doesn't matter if you don't care what people think. It's so freeing.
Yeah. Any, like, those of us that are trying to step into our gifts and really embrace them, like, roadblocks show up along the way and can kind of question, cause us to question, am I going down the right path? Is this, and it could be even people in our life that are saying, why are you pursuing that career or that particular interest? Because it's not going to be fulfilling, or because they're saying it's not going to be the right choice for you. Like, did you run into that at all yourself, or with the clients that you work with, and how to move past that? And
if I only knew what I know now, 25 years ago, right, where I would be, or how fear got in my way and all of that. So it's our own thinking that gets us in the way, right? This is the foundation of your body of work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so having that reflected back to us in our communities, like being in a group or, group coaching or working one-on-one with someone like you or someone like me, a coach or a therapist, is really good because it challenges our thinking. Because it's our selves in our own heads that get in the way. So you've got to bring somebody else on board, or listen to a podcast, or listen to somebody else in order to get out of your own way, to let new thinking in. And then most importantly, it's about affirming the direction you want to go, writing down the more empowered way of thinking, the affirmations or the intentions, and really honoring that you're on a path of progress. You're not trying to make it perfect. You're progressing. Mm-hmm. And I think we all know those same issues, that we have our same best friends that we talk to about, oh my God, I can't believe I'm blah, blah. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. We get to keep exploring parts of ourselves that are doing it well. And then the parts of ourselves that are struggling, we can pull along with the parts of ourselves that are strong. It's like the part of me that's always on time. She can help that strength in me, that part in me can also help the part of me that doesn't want to exercise as much as I would like my body to be exercising.
Right.
So we pull from the strengths that we have and ignite the weaker muscles in our bodies, in our minds, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. It's a good reminder, right? It's just how to be able to really overcome anything that shows up, and checking in with our, how are we thinking about this? Like what thoughts are coming up, what fears coming up, and what do I actually want to put my attention on?
Right. And the willingness.
And the willingness. Yeah.
The willingness.
Yeah.
I sit with this older guy at the coffee shop in the mornings, and he's in pain. His body's in pain. And I'm like, well, dude, you have inflammation in your body and you drink wine every single night. So the sugars are causing you to be inflamed and causing you pain. Are you willing to be out of pain? And he's like, yeah, I'm willing. Like, okay, January 1, why don't you try something new? Or you can keep sitting here complaining. I mean, I don't really care. I sit there and journal and draw and do my own thing. So it kind of reminds me of my dad. So it's kind of cute. But now he's going to stop drinking the month of January just to see if he feels better.
Look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, what else are you going to take away from me? I said, good point. But if you add pain-free living, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
Right. So if we add pain-free thinking, and we have a vision of, I want to start to become a coach. And any of your listeners can reach out to me. I always give time to people.
Awesome.
I think it's important, especially when you're successful and full and busy. You gotta pay it forward by helping someone pull someone up.
Exactly.
So I'm very accessible to
appreciate that. And if there is people that are listening that are seeing, the work that you're doing, or hearing about what you're saying here, and recognize that they would love to be doing similar work with women or coaching, like what do you think is some things that they should focus on to bring those gifts to life for them?
Well, definitely do the work on yourself so that you are modeling the transformation that you want to see in other people, right? Or that you want to bring alive in other people. So when people see it and know it in you, it's more possible for them that would happen. And so then it's a possibility for you to create that.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, go for it first as a passion, not as your only income. Because if it's your only income, and it's not flowing right away, then it's discouraging. Give yourselves wins. So offer your coaching to, like a mother's club, if we're talking about women,
Mhm.
or, teachers. Just keep offering it up. And then as people get ignited by what they see you're doing, then they're going to want it. And then start slowly. I don't agree with all this marketing, like charge what you want and make $1 million as a coach. It's just not true. You can't, you're taking people's lives and psyches into your care. And
Mhm.
it's such irresponsible marketing from people. I don't like it. But for those of us who truly have skills and are qualified and have licenses and all of that, yeah, then work with someone like us. And there's so much good. I have all these free tools on my website. Use them, go through them. I have courses, I have everything. Because I want to pay it forward for people.
It's so amazing. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everyone
I,
can afford, high level coaching, but like my women's group is inexpensive to be a member of, and a wonderful way. You want to make big changes, then commit the time, money, and energy to invest in yourself. That's what I would say.
yeah.
Right.
And I love that initial step of really working, like doing your own work first, because that in itself can actually help even bring about those gifts that you maybe have forgotten about or haven't really tapped into for maybe got lost along the way. But doing that inner work can kind of be a reminder of, oh, hey, hang on a second, I forgot that I love being an artist or a musician or a teacher, right? And to be able to just find an opportunity to help, to help a friend to start your own group. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start small and go from there and lead with the passion piece, right?
Right. And then your story is the one that comes forward. And people
Yeah.
are like, oh, she did that, then I can do that. Or he did that.
Yeah.
You know.
So what's the best way for people to find you and reach out to you?
So they can go to my website, lisapeppersatkin.com, and there are free tools and there are ways to contact me. And then you can sign up for my women's group, which is Wednesdays at noon Pacific time. And I also have a really cool workshop coming up at the end of the year called Own Your 2024. And
Incredible.
I
Yeah.
would love to have your listeners. There's one on Zoom and then one in person, but the people who would attend are probably on Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's on the end of the month. And it takes you through this whole fabulous process. I take you through of like closing out 2023, celebrating what worked, looking at what didn't work so well and tweaking it to move forward. And then
Incredible.
poof, we move into 2024. Can you believe it?
It's almost here. Yeah.
It's almost here.
Yeah. That's great. I'll make sure that the links to your website are in the show notes. And
Thank
at
you.
least thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh,
It's great to have you as a guest.
I loved it. You're
Yeah.
doing great work in the world. I'm so happy to know you now.
Thanks so much.
All right.